what are we telling the public? How are we creating media literacy for issues that are important to them? Food security. You talked about armyworms, I think. I saw that in the morning. What's the implication of that? You talked about leadership. What is the implication of leadership at the grassroots level? What is the feeling on the ground? I think if you go more or less into features telling us about what's on the ground without having so much cost to spend, you have all the networks wherever they are. If you feature 3 or 4 counties per week and tell us something, that would be good, because we want to see what is the total impact of devolution, for example. What is the total impact of what has changed, for example, in Lodwar? What has changed in Turkana? How is Nairobi coping with this whole situation? So that as leaders go propagating their agenda, there is a reality link with what is happening on the ground. All right. So let's move on to the big story that we are waiting for today, and that is the verdict or the ruling by the Court of Appeal over the presidential vote, whether it should be final at the constituency level or whether it should be done at the national level by the IEBC chair. So first of all, the whole process leading us here has been a very long one. We've seen a lot of back and forth between Jubilee and NASA, and we've seen what borders on intimidation of the judicial system. Eric, let's begin with you. Initially, we had NASA come out and say, if the court does not rule in our favor, we might just boycott the elections. Your thoughts on that? NASA has just gone all out on this. First, they said IEBC, if IEBC does not withdraw that case, then they've said if the court does not rule in our favor. I think NASA, first of all, needs to go back inwards and start looking at how it's projecting itself as a political movement to the country. Are you saying that unless things go your way, then you're not going to respect them? Unless people play by your rules, then they are your enemy. Is there any sense of going to court in the first place if you do not believe that the court can be impartial? Those are some of the issues that, NASA just needs to have a self-reflection. But the issue of coverage of the story and the issues surrounding it, sometimes I feel before the hearing began, was there an opportunity for a proper conversation and debate surrounding this issue? Surrounding the issue of what exactly is the point of contention here. Is it the words declaration and announcement? Is it the role of a returning officer versus a presiding officer versus the national returning officer? Is it the role of the IEBC in total? Is it the role of media or tallying? Is it the role of political party agents? Because political party agents are also helping to relay this information of what has been announced on the ground to the national party headquarters or national movement headquarters or candidates headquarters. What is the issue? And therefore, by the time we're going to the Court of Appeal, we'd be knowing. I mean, this is what the issue is. These guys want ABCD and IEBC wants this and the other. And I think we have sort of
muddled the situation.
Yes, completely.
A little bit cocky. Your thoughts on that?
I think it's a big test for the judicial system. It's also a big test for the electoral body to be able to come out clear, to stand for its principles, or more or less what it thinks is important, to see whether the justice system is really as strong and whether it is independent. Because we are in an era where we are saying that, everybody has a right to go and to court and petition whatever it is, so long as it is for public interest. Right. So I think the bigger story would be how has the court handled issues that relate to public interest? What were the judgments like? What were the issues, like he said, under contention? But most importantly, how are they carrying themselves, especially during the electioneering period?
Right. And of course, that is a big story we'll be waiting on today. The verdict will be given. Latif?
I just want to throw in something here. And I think we should slowly, but also very fast, get this notion out of the public that we should ever question the judiciary. Because the moment the country starts questioning the judiciary, are you impartial, are you not, you'll always find them being impartial. If they rule against you, they'll always be, they ruled against us, they must have been influenced. We should get away from this notion as a country of ever questioning the judiciary.
But how would we do that? Because the election is so ingrained and you
these
only have
people
60
have been
days to
vetted
the
publicly.
election.
The court processes happen publicly. Unless there's an issue that has actually gone to a specific judge, then let's talk about the judge. But when you talk about is our judiciary impartial? Is our judiciary independent? Is our judiciary... We are planting that seed of it may not be. And when we start planting the seed of it may not be, then we're also saying that there's a possibility that they'll be influenced, especially if things don't go in our favor. When the High Court ruled in favor of NASA or CORD, there was no issue. It was very impartial. This was the right judgment. If the Court of Appeal overturns that decision, are we likely to see the same brigade saying, no, the judiciary is impartial?
And where then do we, even as the media, also take our leaders into account in terms of respecting the judicial process as well? Because this is not the first time that we're seeing such conditions being given to the judiciary, so to speak. We've had leaders who've snabbed court summons. We've had leaders who just wanton disrespect of the judiciary. And then that does not help to take that view or perception out of the Kenyan that the judiciary might be aligned to one political party. So where as a media then do we draw that line again in this is what the politician said, this is what's on the ground, and this is where the court stands? I'll
take advisement from the scholar, but from my personal opinion, I think this is a time when the media just takes that activism role and says no. So you have said this, however, there has to be a very direct line and activism from the media by saying that we must respect institutions. We must begin to respect institutions. The moment we actually keep propagating what the politicians are saying that goes in their favor, we are not helping ourselves, we're not helping the country, we are not helping proper journalism.
Okay, have we done that right? Because we did the reporting, of course. We said, Raila has said if the court does not rule in their favor, they will boycott the elections. We said they also told the IBC to withdraw the case. But did we put them on the spot in terms of what you're doing might be intimidation of the judiciary?
You don't need to put anyone on the spot. You need to put yourself in the spot, like he said, because you are the ones who are the bearer of knowledge. You know what the court system is like, and you know what the issues are. So you need to articulate that, because what the media tends to do is align itself to political agenda, which is not wrong because of the context. But then again, you have that other side of the story. When are you stepping in to tell the public that this issue is legal or has a constitutional leaning or has... We need that education, because literacy becomes important. Be it legal, be it media, it becomes important, and it becomes your obligation to tell us the
And speaking of perceptions, there is that perception that the judiciary might be corrupted or in leaning towards one political side, but there's also that perception for the media, especially in Kenya. There are those who feel this media house probably leans to this side, this media house probably leans to this side. How dangerous is that as we head to the elections?
No, media houses abroad are allowed to align themselves to whatever they think is the philosophy behind their operations.
Right.
So I think that is internationally what is known, that media houses have, the freedom to align themselves. But in the Kenyan context, you must ask ourselves, media houses, being that the society's literacy is still low, has the responsibility then to educate the public and to focus on being objective. I think that's what becomes the driving force, because at the end of the day, you need to be trusted. Again, just like you said, if we think that the judiciary is kind of shaky, and we also think that media is also shaky, then we have nowhere to go to. We have social media then to go to, and come up with fake news, etc. So I think the media house has to decide what is the direction. Is it going to follow the journalistic tenets, to be objective, to be accurate, to tell the stories based on fact, to do a bit more research, and to tell a variety of stories?
Latif, and even as we talk about fake news, in the US is an interesting craze going on social media on fake news, putting CNN on the spot because of issues of fake news, issues of staging scenes, so to speak. But then where do we draw the line once again in the country when it comes to fake news and when it comes to verifying the content that we put out there?
The DNA of a media house. If the DNA of a media house is to be objective and to tell the story truthfully, then objectively, then it'll also be able to do what we've been saying. Are you able to actually verify a story before you broadcast the story or before you publish the story? Have you verified? Have you given all the correct facts? If we start running from sensationalism and trying to beat each other on scooping the story, then start focusing more on telling the story, then we will be able to tell the story. Now, of course, when you see a big media house like a CNN being accused of staging stories and all, then you also, get caught up in that issue of wondering, is it really that they staged the story? Is it the media house that staged the story, or is it the journalist who was trying to propel themselves by actually staging a story? But also, it needs to be completely exposed that this was staged, and this is as far as it was staged. Remember, in 2012 and 2013, we had that issue with the Kenyan story, and a lot of backlash on CNN on that this story had been staged. I think probably there were people who had covered themselves in ash and going to the forest and saying we're preparing for war. But probably what the journalists did not do is dig deeper.
All right.
Is this a proper story, or is this just a group? Is it isolated to a bunch of 3 people who have fake guns and they're doing war games?
All right. Finally, let's wind up with IBC preparedness, because we're still talking matters elections, and the voter verification process is coming to an end. There's been a lot of questions as to whether enough voter civic education has been done on the ground. But IBC says it's not the only one or the only stakeholder really in propagating the civic education. The media is also part of this. Koki, are we on the right track in doing this civic education 60 days to the election?
Have they lobbied you to be partners? If they haven't, then you don't have to be obligated, because they have a lot of funding for that. Not to say that you don't take it upon yourself to be responsible enough, but again, civic education is not a one-off thing. Civic education is planned for. It's an expensive venture. You have to have learning material that goes with it. You have to have programs that talk about those issues. You have to have a whole communication strategy that works to make sure that people understand their role. It's not a one-time, one-off little advert in the newspaper or one conversation here. No, it is a systematic approach that should have taken maybe even 1 year before in this period, because you shouldn't be reminding people to go and verify their votes. It should be obvious. So I think IBC, as part of its mandate, and they know very clearly if they look at their mandate, their mission, why they exist, one of the key things that they should have done earlier on with a lot of attention is voter education. All right.
Yeah. So let's wind up there. Thank you so much. Kokyo Chieng is a lecturer of communications and journalism at the United States International University, and we've also been speaking to journalist Eric Latif here on our newsroom conversation. It is now 56 minutes past the hour. I'd like to take a short break here on the Morning Express and also release those watching us on KTN Home, because Life and Style is coming up next. But just a quick reminder of breaking news that has reached us here in studio. A passenger train has this morning crashed head-on with a trailer at Donholm, killing one person. The accident has caused a massive traffic jam at the Outer Ring Road as police try to clear the traffic build-up. More details of this coming up shortly, but if you can avoid the Outer Ring Road on your way to work, then that would work best for you. You're watching Morning Express. Take a short